The global economy is watching with bated breath, as the stakes have never been higher. Trade tensions between the United States and China continue to escalate, sending ripples through international markets and causing widespread concern. The two economic giants have been locked in a bitter trade dispute, characterized by tit-for-tat tariffs and accusations of unfair trade practices. This ongoing conflict has created an atmosphere of uncertainty and unpredictability. This trade war, if left unchecked, has the potential to disrupt global supply chains, stifle economic growth, and reshape the geopolitical landscape. The interconnected nature of today's economy means that the repercussions could be felt far and wide. The stakes are incredibly high for both countries and the rest of the world. Businesses are already feeling the pinch, with many having to rethink their strategies and supply chains to mitigate the impact. A full-blown trade war could have devastating consequences for businesses, consumers, and the global economy as a whole. Higher tariffs mean higher costs for goods, which can lead to increased prices for consumers and reduced spending power. Understanding the historical context, recent developments, and potential outcomes of this trade dispute is crucial for navigating the current economic climate. The roots of this conflict can be traced back to long-standing issues of trade imbalances and intellectual property rights. The current situation is a far cry from the optimism that characterized the early 2000s when China joined the World Trade Organization. Back then, there was a sense of hope that economic interdependence would foster greater cooperation and mutual benefit. Many believed that economic interdependence would lead to greater cooperation and understanding between the two nations. Joint ventures and partnerships flourished, and there was a general sense of optimism about the future of U.S. China relations. However, the relationship has become increasingly strained in recent years. Issues such as intellectual property theft, market access, and trade imbalances have come to the forefront, leading to heightened tensions and a more adversarial stance from both sides. The Trump administration's decision to impose tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods marked a significant escalation in the trade dispute. This move was seen as a direct challenge to China's economic practices and a bid to level the playing field. This move was met with retaliatory tariffs from China, setting off a chain reaction that has impacted businesses and consumers on both sides of the Pacific. Companies have had to navigate a complex and rapidly changing landscape, with many facing increased costs and uncertainty about the future. As the trade war continues to unfold, experts are closely monitoring the situation and analyzing its potential long-term effects. The outcome of this dispute could have far-reaching implications for global trade, economic stability, and international relations. While the path forward remains uncertain, there is hope that through negotiation and diplomacy, a resolution can be reached that benefits all parties involved. The world is watching, and the stakes could not be higher. The trade relationship between the United States and China has a complex and intertwined history, marked by periods of cooperation and tension. For decades, the U.S. embraced a policy of engagement with China, hoping that fostering economic ties would lead to mutual benefits and political reforms within China. The belief was that economic liberalization in China would eventually pave the way for political openness and democratization. China's entry into the World Trade Organization in 2001 was seen as a watershed moment, a significant milestone that many thought would integrate China more deeply into the global economic system. This move was expected to open up new avenues for trade and investment, benefiting both nations and promoting global economic stability. During this period of engagement, China emerged as a global economic powerhouse, transforming its economy at an unprecedented pace. China became the world's second-largest economy, a major player in international trade, and a critical component of global supply chains. However, this rapid economic rise also led to growing concerns in the U.S. about China's trade practices, which many American policymakers and businesses viewed as unfair. Beyond economic issues, there were also worries about China's growing military capabilities and its broader ambitions on the global stage. The U.S. began to express concerns about China's significant trade surplus, which many argued was a result of Beijing's strategic economic policies. Accusations against China included unfair trade practices such as intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer from foreign companies, and currency manipulation to keep its exports competitively priced. These practices were seen as giving Chinese companies an unfair advantage in the global market, contributing to the decline of American manufacturing jobs and industries. As the economic relationship between the two countries deepened, so did the strategic competition, with both nations vying for influence and power on the global stage. The U.S. grew increasingly wary of China's assertiveness in the Asia-Pacific region, particularly its expansive territorial claims in the South China Sea and its rapid military modernization efforts. These actions were perceived as a direct challenge to the U.S.'s strategic interests and its allies in the region, leading to heightened tensions. The geopolitical tensions between the two nations further strained their bilateral relationship, making cooperation more challenging. These growing frictions set the stage for the current trade war, characterized by a series of tariffs and counter-tariffs, impacting businesses and consumers in both countries. The trade war has not only affected the economies of the U.S. and China, but has also had ripple effects across the global economy, influencing markets and trade policies worldwide. Despite ongoing negotiations and attempts to reach a resolution, the path forward remains uncertain, with both sides standing firm on their positions. As the world watches closely, the future of U.S.-China relations will likely continue to be a defining factor in global economic and geopolitical dynamics. The hope remains that through dialogue and cooperation, a more balanced and fair trade relationship can be established, benefiting not just the U.S. and China, but the entire world. Two key issues have been at the heart of the escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China. These issues are the large bilateral trade deficit and concerns over technological competition. The trade deficit refers to the difference in value between what the U.S. imports from China and what it exports to China. The U.S. has long been critical of its trade deficit with China, which reached a record high in recent years. This deficit means that the U.S. is buying far more from China than it is selling to China, leading to a significant imbalance. The Trump administration argued that this trade imbalance was evidence of unfair Chinese trade practices and resulted in the loss of American manufacturing jobs. They claimed that Chinese policies, such as subsidies for local industries and currency manipulation, gave Chinese companies an unfair advantage. While economists debate the true causes and consequences of trade deficits, the issue resonated with many Americans who felt left behind by globalization. Many workers in traditional manufacturing sectors saw their jobs disappear as companies moved production to countries with lower labor costs, like China. Adding fuel to the fire were concerns about China's growing technological prowess. Over the past few decades, China has invested heavily in research and development, aiming to become a global leader in technology. China has made significant strides in areas like artificial intelligence, robotics, and 5G wireless technologies, challenging the U.S.'s technological dominance. These advancements have positioned China as a formidable competitor in the global tech landscape. The U.S. government has accused Chinese companies of engaging in intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and unfair government subsidies to gain an edge in these strategic sectors. These accusations have led to increased scrutiny and regulatory measures. The Trump administration implemented a series of measures aimed at curbing China's technological rise, including increased scrutiny of Chinese investments in the U.S., export controls on sensitive technologies, and sanctions against Chinese tech companies like Huawei. These measures were designed to protect American intellectual property and maintain the U.S.'s competitive edge. These actions further escalated tensions and contributed to the current trade war. The trade war has seen both countries imposing tariffs on each other's goods, leading to increased costs for businesses and consumers. The ongoing negotiations have been fraught with challenges as both sides seek to protect their economic interests and assert their positions on the global stage. The trade war between the U.S. and China escalated rapidly in 2018 when the Trump administration imposed tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods. These tariffs, which are essentially taxes on imported goods, were intended to protect American industries from what the U.S. government deemed as unfair competition from China. The initial round of tariffs targeted Chinese products like steel, aluminum, and solar panels. However, the tariffs quickly expanded to cover a wide range of goods from electronics and machinery to clothing and footwear. China responded in kind, imposing retaliatory tariffs on billions of dollars worth of American goods, including agricultural products like soybeans and pork, as well as automobiles and aircraft. This back-and-forth exchange of tariffs has created uncertainty for businesses on both sides of the Pacific, disrupted global supply chains, and raised prices for consumers. Beyond tariffs, The two countries have also engaged in other protectionist measures, such as imposing non-tariff barriers, tightening investment restrictions, and engaging in currency devaluations. These actions have further fueled the trade war and created a climate of distrust and tension between the two economic giants.